seatbelt. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Chrissie is hilarious.
Chrissie, have you ever heard of the comedian Basha K. Ali?
No, that sounds like something you yell at before you blow up a plane.
30 seconds remaining.
But you know what, Chrissie, to say I dabbled in stand-up or something, I haven't been disrespectful to you at all.
I was very confused by the title, Everything Everywhere All at Once, because that's also what we call it when Ash takes off his shirt. I shouldn't be up here. I should be in school on the other side of the ocean. Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to another episode of the Chrissie Mayr podcast. We're on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, Rumble, Rockfin, all the places fine podcasts are sold. I got a couple of stand-up dates coming up. I do comedy. I don't know if you knew that. I'm going to be in Bridgeport, Connecticut, Thursday, March 23rd, headlining the Stress Factory. Keanu Thompson will be opening for me at that show. Then I got a bunch of shows in New York City, Saturday, March 25th, 8 and 10 o'clock at the Grizzly Pear in Midtown Manhattan. Gino Bisconti will be hosting. Keanu Thompson will be doing a spot. And Andrew Harms from The Wet Spot will also be doing a spot. So if you're a Compound Media fan, come on out Saturday, March 25th to the Grizzly Pear. Then I'm headlining in Staten Island, Friday, April 7th at the Reef at Paradise Island. Sounds tropical, probably isn't. Probably just going to be Staten Island. That's fine. We love Staten Island. Then we got Jersey, Saturday, April 8th. I'll be in Morris Plains headlining Tiff's Ale House, also known as the Dojo of Comedy. That's a 9 o'clock show out in Jersey. They have really strong Cosmos, so I'm going to just remember that. Then I'm heading to Vegas. We got the Friday Night Tights meetup on Wednesday, April 26th at the Fandom Menace. Is that what the bar is called? Something like that. Some sort of nerd name, the bar. And then I got a show the next day, Thursday, April 27th at the Space. Tickets are flying for this show. So if you know you're going to be at the Friday Night Tights Geeks and Gamers meetup, just get tickets now. It's going to be a big old hang. And what else are you doing on Thursday? Then I'll be heading to Dallas. Also, Lila Hart will be featuring for me in Vegas. Then we're going to Dallas. First week in May, I'll be at Alex Stein's show at the Blaze, couple of days. We might be filming some sketches out there. And then I'll be headlining Hyenas in Dallas Friday, May 5th, Saturday, May 6th. 2 shows Friday, 2 shows Saturday. Lila will be opening for me. And hopefully Alex Stein will be coming by doing some spots. That I'm headlining in Richmond at the Sandman Comedy Club Wednesday, August 9th. Then we got Anime Matsuri in August 10th through the 13th. Simpcast will have a panel and a booth at Anime Matsuri. So if you know you're going to be at this convention, get tickets for that same Friday. I'll be headlining at the Secret Group in Houston, Friday, August 11th. Come on out. It's early enough. It's going to be right after the convention ends on Friday, and then you can go out and get hammered afterwards. It's going to be fun, guys. We're going to have fun. I'm so excited to have this guy on the podcast. I know I say I'm excited to have every guest, but I am actually genuinely excited to have this guy on the podcast. He has been he's been pretty viral lately for the very simple reason of just when asked the question, would you rather have sex with the hottest trans person or the oldest woman? I don't even know if it was the hottest old woman. It doesn't matter. The point is he picked the old woman, and it caused quite a stir. Everyone's been talking about these clips on their podcasts and shows. Everybody from like JP Sears to Ben Shapiro and others, I'm sure. So I'm so happy he could join me today. He's getting over the flu, but I said, you know what, Chase, just come on out. Just cough whenever you need to, buddy. The world needs to hear from you. And by the world, I mean the 71 people watching right now. It'll be more. We'll get up there. Chase, a.k.a. the Sovereign Brah, welcome.
What's up? Thank you for having me, Chrissie. How are you?
This has been a whirlwind ride for you. What, the last month or so? 4 months? When did it really kick up?
Kicked off, all the viral clips kicked off early February, around like February 6th or something like that. The first clip that went viral was the one of me debating with that feminist, talking about how I would make a woman my wife. That one kicked off on TikTok, got like 10 million views between TikTok and Instagram in a couple days. And then the one of me saying I wouldn't have sex with a tranny because it would make me gay, that one went like nuclear viral on February 22nd. And it's been crazy. It's like insane. I think between those two clips, like they've gotten probably 40 million views of exposure. My inbox is like completely destroyed. But it's been really cool. It's been fun,
When did you? So this is from these clips are from the Whatever podcast, which is hosted by a guy named Brian Atlas. Does he normally just host the podcast by himself? Because you've been on what, like you said, like 6 or 7 times. You're not really like a regular, but I'm sure most people know you from these appearances. Is it mostly just him, and then he'll invite on, whatever girls are in the California area?
Yeah. So he started this podcast this past year. Him and I became friends a couple years ago, and I met him just walking around Santa Barbara. And I used to watch his YouTube videos when I was in college. He had just hilarious social experiment YouTube videos, and they would go super viral. This was back in like 2013, 2014. And I saw him walking around State Street in Santa Barbara. And I was like, dude, I watched your YouTube videos when I was in college. Like, what's up? And he was like, yeah, we hit it off and exchanged phone numbers. And he hit me up like a year later, and he was like, dude, I'm starting a podcast on dating. Would love to have you on sometime. I was like, okay, this could be interesting. So he hosts it by himself. He's asked me to co-host a bunch of times with him, but I tell him, I'm like, honestly, bro, like I don't like debating with like liberal women about why they shouldn't get ran through in college in their 20s. Like, it's not my favorite way to spend my time. And I didn't think it was gonna like I didn't think the clips or anything would really like go super viral. Like, it was just like a fun thing that I was doing with him. And it's been really insane to see how it's exploded. It has been nonstop on the timeline for like the past several weeks. I mean, he's completely taken over the internet, and I'm just sitting here like, wow, like, good job, bro. So, he wants to bring me on as a co-host. It doesn't really make financial sense for me right now. It's a time and energy commitment, but I'll probably go back on at some point to set the record straight with some more liberal girls. We'll see.
When you say you don't want to spend your time telling women in their early 20s like that they shouldn't be ran through, it's almost, you say that it's almost like, well, it should be common sense, right? And you don't want to, it's more like you'd rather spend your time, I don't know, if you're going to talk to a woman, you hope that she was on your level in terms of values and intellect, because it's almost like, you watch these clips and they go viral for so many reasons. And I just find that like kind of fascinating, because it's almost like, do you want to spend your time like honestly preaching to somebody who's not open to listening? It's almost like you have to. And that's the thing too, is a lot of these women that get upset, they're probably like, oh, does he think he's better than us? But at the same time, they're like, oh, damn it, I really want him to like me. So I feel conflicted. So this panel does he try to mix it up in terms of like political backgrounds or beliefs with the women, or is it basically just like they cast whoever's in the California area?
That's pretty much how it is. So for most episodes, the way he recruits girls, he's got like a few dating apps, and he'll match with girls, and then he'll be like, hey, I have a dating podcast. Would you be open to coming on? And he's based in Isla Vista here in California, that's where UC Santa Barbara is. Thousands of college girls around. There's also thousands of college girls throughout the rest of the city because there's other colleges. And he'll just see whoever's willing to come on. And girls between the age of like 18 to 25, particularly if they're attractive in Santa Barbara, are very fickle, right? Like they'll make plans and then at the last second they'll be like, oh, I want to go do something else. Or but with the clip that you just had up, that was from episode 33. After I'd done 6 episodes talking to these like super liberal, super feminist girls, I told Brian, I was like, bro, like it's the same conversation every single time with these girls. And I want to mix it up. And I told him what we should do is we should get on 3 Christian conservative girls. And then we should fill the rest of the panel with like the most liberal, degenerate women that we can find. Okay. So we had an OnlyFans whore. We had a stripper.
Whore, that's a strong word,
Well,
Chase.
she sells her body online. Is that not what a whore is?
True. Some people would define it as such. Yeah.
An OnlyFans prostitute. So we had her. We had a stripper. We had a girl who had sold her clothing to pedophiles online.
No.
Yep.
Like panties or just what? Like old pair of gym shorts?
She said shoes, maybe panties, I don't know, but clothing from when she was a little girl. And this is part of the reason why that clip, why she exploded at me in that clip, is because earlier in the show, I had basically gotten her to admit that she had done that, and I completely roasted her
This
for
girl
it.
here with the ponytail sells clothes from her childhood to pedophiles.
I don't know if she still does, but
and she's judging you. She's trans, right? That's why I assumed she got so mad.
I mean, she says she's a biological woman. I believe her, but here's the interesting thing, Chrissy, about that. So the reason why I roasted her so hard, besides the fact that it's, in my opinion, completely immoral to subsidize, the pedophilia industry online.
Yikes.
Earlier in the show, we had been discussing the fact that, men generally prefer younger women, right? And guys in their late 20s, early 30s, it's very natural for them to be attracted to girls in their early 20s or, 18, 19 years old. It's just basic biology. And her and the OnlyFans prostitute, if you will, they were accusing men with interest in younger women like that of being pedophiles. And I'm like, I was like pushing back against it. I was like, no, this is just human nature. It's very natural. And I told her earlier in the show, I was like, I feel like there's something going on here. It feels like something's motivating this, and this is like projection of some sort. I don't know exactly what it is. And then later on in the show, I found out that she had done business with pedophiles online and was probably projecting all of that onto men. And it was just mind blowing. So by the end of the show, there was a lot of tension between my side of the table with the Christian conservative girls, and then Kiko, that girl sitting next to me in the clip right there, Tara. I mean, she had roasted Kiko with me for selling her clothing, and so there was a lot of tension at that point in time, and the show was just ready to blow.
The two girls sitting next to you, I know the girl in the black shirt was the one that said she was trying to join that conservative dating site. What's it called? The Right Stuff. Yeah. And the girl in the white top, is she kind of more on the conservative side as well? And then all the other girls are kind of more liberal, progressive.
Yeah, the girl in the white top next to me, more conservative. The girl in the black next to her, Grace, fantastic girl. All three of them are fantastic. The three girls sitting next to me. Grace, total Christian conservative, saving herself for marriage. And then Austis, the girl sitting next to Grace, very, very modest and humble and feminine Christian conservative girl. And then the rest of the panel were, generally left leaning. There was one girl on the panel who was, I feel bad that she kind of got lumped in with the like super feminist aggressive.
Oh. Because she's in the same camera shot. They did her dirty on the camera angles.
Yeah, 100%. She was just kind of sitting there silent while the others were like sharing all these crazy views and stuff. But yeah, no, I told Brian, I was like, dude, if we bring like the most extreme opposites together, it's gonna make a great episode. And it just freaking exploded.
And that was this episode.
That was this episode. So we intentionally curated this episode, and I think that's. Brian, he just brings in whoever he can. Last night he had on Michael Knowles, which was awesome.
That's great.
Yeah, but like I've told Brian, like I think the way to make the best episodes is to very intentionally curate the personalities so that there's as much polarity as possible, and then just see what happens.
Yeah, no, that's really great. You can tell that yeah, the part where it went, so the first viral moment you said was when you basically said to a girl like, no, I want to like find a woman and make her my wife. And then that's the thing with feminists is, and I know this because I used to be one, like they will intentionally misunderstand you just to feel like a temporary sense of power over you, or be like, they don't care about being happy. They care about being right. And sometimes men and women, to be happy, you have to be willing to be wrong or take criticism or be willing to admit that you don't know all there is to know about a certain subject. And I just was like, oh, I'm watching her purposely misunderstand. No, you said make her your wife. She's a person too. And I'm like, yeah, like Chase wants to be with the kind of person that wants to be his wife and like vice versa. And feminism has really been such a disease and convinced women of a lot of untruths. And that's what's, I think, really important about what you represent here, Chase, and why these clips go so viral. I think because we have men like Andrew Tate who promote this uber masculinity, whether it's who he really is or not. He definitely promotes this, and what I like about a little bit of what he promotes is like, okay, unplugging from the system, be an entrepreneur, don't be a 9 to 5 or don't be chained to a desk. Like, you can start a business and sometimes be happier that way. You don't always have to work for somebody. But I just don't think that Andrew Tate is going to turn the tide of feminism. And that's the thing is like, because I remember being a feminist. I remember being in my like teens and 20s. I went to college. I was Democrat. I was a feminist, women's studies minor. I graduated. Like I was all of the things, right? And I started doing stand up in New York City. Bad relationship with my dad. I had everything. I checked off all the boxes. When you're that age, who do you listen to? You listen to basically like influencers, right? If these girls are all on TikTok, all on YouTube, you're listening to whoever seems like glamorous to you from an influencer perspective, or really like Lizzo. And I call like the Lizzo types like women that are like girl power and the voices that make you feel good and validate your choices. And they're not thinking about your long-term happiness. Obviously they're trying to sell a product, which is their music or their brand or whatever, but these are kind of like feel good voices. Are they really going to turn the tide of feminism? No, because they're selling a product. You look at Chelsea Handler. She loves to piss off people like Tucker Carlson, like any conservative man. She lives for that because she's selling a product. She is selling stand-up tickets for single women in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, angry feminists. Like, that's her group, right? So you can't get mad at her and ask her to change because it's like, no, she's selling a product. And honestly, I think, Chase, you represent kind of like, not to like give you a big head or anything, but this powerful, very influential group of people that I think can help turn the tide of feminism and kind of like wake up a lot of these women that think they're smart and modern by following feminism. And it's like I think this is all going to be turned around, honestly, like from guys like you with a wink and a smile. Because if you have somebody like that comes off like a parent, like you're wrong, you're a slut, you're a stripper. I mean, maybe you do call them those things as well, but like, have some, oh, don't go out wearing that, don't wear that short skirt, don't, you got to save yourself for marriage. Like, these women are not going to listen to somebody being preachy. They might listen to like an older woman, who knows. But I think these women can be very influenced by guys like you, because a lot of these women got upset listening to you because they go, oh man, like Chase is the kind, like low key, they won't say it because I was listening to this episode, these women, they don't want to appear weak by saying, I want to get married, I want to meet a guy and settle down. They want to keep this illusion going that they're like strong, independent women, that they don't need a man, that is somehow better than becoming one with a man in marriage. But they look at you and deep down they go, man, that's the kind of guy I think I want to settle down with. But they don't want to admit that to themselves privately, or obviously say it on the podcast, because the culture has made them feel like that's a weakness, that's a need and want a man in a relationship, in a marriage, to settle down with is some kind of weakness, and that going to college, getting a degree, and being an independent woman, that's somehow better. And I know this because I was taught that, and it took me years to unravel it, to like listen to my own common sense and be like, wait, I can't be a strong, independent woman. I can't even put my own air conditioner in the window. Like, this is fucked up. Like I need somebody to help me assemble IKEA furniture. But I think that's why these clips go so viral and why your words really trigger these women, because it's so easy to take the easy way out. It is the easiest thing in the world when you're a 19, 20-year-old woman to start an OnlyFans and sell your body and make. You asked her how much she made. She didn't want to tell you, but I know girls that are. I've had friends of mine tell me, and I'm like way past the age of anybody who's doing OnlyFans, but like I've had my own girlfriends that do it tell me like, no, you could easily make $5,000 a month plus doing OnlyFans. So you could easily make a 6-figure salary doing OnlyFans. And I think we need to bring back in like our culture, like, let's not always take the easy way out. Okay, boys and girls. Okay, let's not do OnlyFans just to make $6,000. I mean, because not every woman is cut out. Some women are great and can do porn. I'm friends with some of these girls. They're built for it. They have the constitution for it. But I think most women are not. And it's so easy to be like this girl here, 20 years old. Oh, I'm doing OnlyFans because I'm a strong, independent woman. Like, I think we need to bring back not always not the easiest choice is not always the best choice long term, because I think what's going to happen is like a lot of these women are going to like turn around and be like, yeah, I made a shit ton of money, but now I've been doing OnlyFans for 5+ years and I'm noticing maybe a certain type of guy that I want to settle down with doesn't want to settle down with me, and they don't want to hear that because it's very exciting and it's a rush to make all that money so quickly. And sort of not need a man. It's very easy to maintain that position. But then a few years go by and they go, oh, fuck, like I'm getting this nagging sense. Like, notice how easy it was for that woman to be like, yeah, I want to have kids. But then when you ask, oh, do you want to get married? She's like, I don't know. Because I think if you've, as a woman, been even hurt by one guy or had one relationship go south, it's very easy to convince women to just write off men as a whole. And you're faced with like the result of kind of just years of toxic femininity and these themes being kind of like passed down. And and I'm looking at these women, I'm like, these women, they look like, what did I say in a tweet? They look just like rabbits that just woke up from hibernation. They look sort of just like clueless. Like they're hearing a lot of these things for the first time. And I just think it's interesting because you're like around what, like 27. These girls are like early 20s.
Yeah, early to mid.
But it's almost like, yeah, you don't want to have to be the one to like teach them how to be. It's like life will teach you. Okay, like life will teach you the lessons. You will learn the same lesson over and over again. Life will serve it up to you until you figure it out. But I think it's whether you're like, yeah,
if I may, what I've noticed in my conversations with these girls is that, you know, like you're describing, they're really living for short-term gratification, right? Like that blonde girl that I was speaking to who got triggered when I said I was going to make a woman my wife and that she wasn't going to be wearing tiny dresses and going to the club and all this kind of stuff. Like she's in a stage of her life where she's getting a ton of attention from guys. You know, she's very cute, going to clubs, probably got all these chads that are hitting on her and stuff. And like, that probably feels really good as a woman to get that kind of attention from guys. And a lot of the girls on the show, you know, they're in this similar position where they're young, they're attractive, they're fertile, and there's all these like handsome dudes that are hitting on them and stuff, and they're, you know, fornicating with them and having fun and like living it up, clubbing, partying, all this stuff. And they kind of, what I've noticed about them is they have this perception that the value that they have to men right now is going to maintain itself in perpetuity, and they're always going to be able to get away with this kind of behavior. But the reality is a high value man who can provide for a woman and who is decently attractive and who wants a good wife, like he's not going to want some chick. Andrew Tate talks about this, you know, he's not going to want some chick that has been ran through a million times by all these different dudes and has a ton of baggage and has this feminist mindset. He doesn't want that, right? He's going to want a woman who brings him peace in his life and who isn't like in this, you know, like doesn't have this tough exterior of like, I need to be this like strong, independent woman and you can't tell me what to do. Like that's not a guy.
It's a front though. It's such a front. It's like what's under there is an insecure, like wounded person that 100%. Desperately wants a strong man to lead, but the culture has convinced us to admit to that want is weakness. And you'll get shamed from other women for wanting that.
And I believe that the reality, you know, looking at the world from a biblical perspective, I believe that the reality is like God created women to be led by a good, strong, virtuous man and to work with him in whatever his mission is, building a family. Like the men and women when they're existing properly in alignment with their nature, they're very complementary to one another. Right? Like a man who's existing in alignment with his masculine nature, he's going to be assertive and strong and emotionally balanced and he's going to go out and penetrate the world with his mission, right? And a
Choice of
woman,
words.
yeah, a woman who
Just out here penetrating the world.
that's what you got to do. We were made to do it. A woman who's in alignment with her nature, like she's going to be soft and feminine and like radiant and like nurturing and caring and loving and like, you know, just very emotionally vibrant. And for like a masculine man and a feminine woman to get together like that, like there's a lot of harmony there. You know what I mean? But when you have a man who's in his masculine and a woman who's in her masculine, and that, because that's what feminism is all about. It basically tells women, hey, you need to embody the masculine energy the same way that men do. That's like, you know, it's like if you take two magnets with the same polarity and you put them towards one another, they're going to repel, right? And what's so obvious to me talking to these girls, Chrissy, is like you're describing, they want just a strong, caring, loving, masculine man who wants to commit to them, and they want to commit to him. But then if, you know, any ideas of like submission or masculine leadership or whatever start to enter the picture because of this feminist programming, they're like, no, that's like oppression, like he's trying to control me, and it causes them to, like, you know, they put their guard up.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad because, you know, at the end of the day, if they find a good, virtuous, loving, caring man who wants to commit to them and build something with them, ideally a family, I believe that's the thing that's going to make a lot of these girls the most fulfilled in life. Not every girl, but the majority of them. And when I have these conversations with them, like it's so obvious to me that that's what they want. Like that blonde girl who I was talking to, who was like, "Are you going to make a woman your wife?" She was complaining earlier in the podcast about how, you know, none of these chads that like she was into wanted to commit to her, you know? And it's like, well, a good guy who's going to want to commit to you isn't going to want you going to the club. So you're going to have to make a compromise.
Yeah,
And
you're fishing still. And to not admit that you're not going, at least for an ego boost, is retarded, and guys can see through that.
it's completely absurd. It's totally absurd. And yeah, no, I think, you know, I think part of the way that we fix it, you know, as far as I can tell, Chrissy, if we make as many men as possible strong and high value and desirable to women, and we cause them to raise their standards and stop just running through chicks and be like, hey, this is what I expect out of a wife. I will not take anything less than this, right? Like if their standards are, you're not going to go clubbing, I don't want you to get ran through, you know, I don't want you to have been ran through. If you make a culture of high value, strong, loving, virtuous men, and they raise their standards, the women will see those standards, because every woman wants a guy like that. They will see those standards, and I believe they will adjust their lifestyles to it. That's how I think we fix all of this, you know?
I think so, because they ultimately, like, men ultimately are leading, and women are like ultimately, you can pretend, but it's like, that's the thing, is it's funny that it's easier for women to admit they want kids than they want to get married. And it's like, if you reframe it like, look, I'm not trying to control your movements or dim your light. Like, you know, and a lot of women have been in toxic relationships. Like, I dated a guy who was like, actually, can you like take off all your makeup? Can you actually just wear your hair back all the time? Can you just like basically like stop wearing bright colors? I'm a stand-up comic. And he was very insecure. He thought that everybody wanted to fuck me. And it was, he was truly dimming my light. You know, oh, don't go out there. Don't, like, there is a difference between this sort of nice, kind, I want you all to myself, than a controlling, I want you all to yourself. And exactly like you're saying it, Chase, if you can reframe, because I think if you, and maybe you've had this, you know, gotten to this point with these women on these shows, like, hey, I'm not trying to control you. I'm saying, don't you want a ride or die? Yes or no? And at the end of the day, that's what it's about. And like women, I don't know if it's a self-esteem thing. I don't know if it's like a lack of self-value, but I think a lot of women think they're not capable of getting it or keeping it, because we see so much cheating in our culture, and women know, like, all right, the older you get, the lower your value gets, especially a high value man has tons of options. We hear guys like Tate, and even what's his name? Kevin Samuels be like, well, you got to get used to the idea that you're going to have to share a high value man, whether that means
Which I
multiple
totally
wives
I don't
or
like that.
you have to be okay with mistresses. That bums women out. So,
And it should. That right there is something, that's a perspective I totally disagree with. I used to think it was sick when I was in my earlier 20s. I was like, oh yeah, I want to make a bunch of money and just have like a harem of women. Like, I think that'd be so sick, right? But God did a tremendous amount of work on my heart and helped me realize, no, like, I want to have kids, and the best scenario possible for raising kids is a committed monogamous relationship where both people are working to take care of one another. Like, that's the best situation for kids. And I want to be the best father I can be. And so eventually I was like, yeah, no, screw this whole like polyamory idea. It's a terrible idea. The narrative that like the Tates and the Kevin Samuels are pushing out there of like, hey, high value men, they're going to want to be with a bunch of women. To me, that's like just as degenerate as like chicks getting ran through in the club in their 20s, because the reality is that most guys, like a lot of the good guys I know, they don't want like a ton of chicks. They want to find one really good woman and build something meaningful with her. But the good women are hard to find. And for the good women that are out there, the good men are hard to find. Fortunately, me and a partner that I have in tech, we're working to present the solution to the masses. But anyways, we can get into that later. But yeah,
you're
no.
going to put chips in all the high value women so that the high value men can find them more easily.
Yes,
like
we're going to track them and round them up. No, yeah. I think like the vast majority of like good, solid dudes that I know out there, like they're not interested in having like a harem of women. They just want to find one ride or die girl that's really good, and they want to build something meaningful to her. And chicks that are watching Kevin Samuels and Andrew Tate and stuff like that, like they should know that like those guys are out there. The Kevin Samuels and Andrew Tates, like they're rare. If you're going for NFL players or like NCAA, basketball or football
athletes,
those guys are going to have a bunch of women in their roster, but that's not the kind of guy I think a woman would want to go for. They're attracted to them, but that's not the kind of guy you want to settle with.
It's like our culture. Yeah, you have to accept that when you're at your high value point in your life, you have to be okay with promiscuity, right? Like, so for women, that's when they're younger and hotter and out at clubs. For men, that's when they're older and more established and have more money. And so it's like, oh, so we all have to just accept. And there's like the mismatch. So,
and there's a third option from the Christian perspective. It's the biblical perspective of, okay, a man and a woman finding one another and committing to one another and building a family and a life that's really meaningful, and ideally making an impact on the culture. Like, we live in this like weird paradigm where it's like the options being presented in the culture are like inceldom or like being Andrew Tate. You know what I mean?
Right. For dudes, that looks like your two options right there. Or you like opt out. Right. Well, being an incel, like some guys just throw their hands up and be like, it's too hard. I don't want to get hurt. I don't have the means right now. I'm just going to opt out until conditions improve, which that's sad because there's a lot of good guys that, I don't know. And guys who watch porn too, they're like, oh, I don't have a baby's arm coming out of me. Like, how can I measure up? And it's like, all right. Most people are fine downstairs.
Baby's arm, a third leg.
Yeah.
It's a weird dichotomy. And I feel like, I believe that there's like a war on the family and on like traditional relationships. And I feel like this whole Andrew Tate incel dichotomy is like, it's like a psyop that's being pushed on the masses to like further break normal relationships. But the reality is that there's a third option, and it's just, two people coming together and loving one another and sacrificing for one another and committing to one another. And, ideally working on themselves to be the best versions of themselves that they can be for themselves and for one another and for God and country and their future children. Like, that's the third option. That's what we should all be pursuing, and it's so interesting, Chrissy, because like, since these clips have gone viral, I've gotten connected with so many dudes that just want a good woman. And I've gotten connected with so many women that just want a good dude. And like, both sexes are like desperately looking for one another. And yeah, we're building the solution to that. But
You're like, and my DMs are so filled of naked photos from girls who
No.
want me specifically.
no, I will say after the first clip went viral, there were like 300 like Christian babes that followed me on Instagram, and I was like, let's go. Like we are
Good night, everybody. I'm good.
we are so back. Like I
Uh,
was telling Brian on the show, like, you know, dating here in California, it's just been like it's like a spiritual wasteland of like so many just feminist hoes, and like all these chicks slid into my DMs. I started talking to one of them, and we've been building a pretty special relationship. She might be my future wife. We'll see.
oh my God. I hope she's watching. Hope she blows you for saying that. Why do you, so you're from California? Why have you not moved out of California? And I also want to know, did your parents kind of instill these values into you, or did you kind of have a moment or like a kind of breaking point where you turned it around?
Yeah. Why I live in California? I've lived here for 18 years. And Chrissy, have you been here? This place is amazing.
I have. It is beautiful. I was there a couple weeks ago. I did San Diego, Pasadena, a little bit back in LA. It is gorgeous. Like the mountains are covered with grass. It's not just like New York mountains that are like snowy and gray. I was like, it is beautiful. But
Yeah.
I was expecting a full liberal hellscape, and it was pretty nice.
If you're in like Southern California, there's a lot of places where it's not like a total liberal hellscape. I think San Diego and Orange County are my favorite parts of SoCal. They're pretty conservative for the most part. But yeah, I live like a half mile away from the beach, and you know, I love spending my time in the ocean and just working out on the beach. And living in California, it's how I charge my life force, Chrissy. You know what I'm saying? Like I get charged up here. And
Were you one of these genital sunners that I see on Instagram?
I do in fact sun my balls. I do in fact sun my balls. There's massive
That explains a
testosterone
lot.
increases. Yeah, it's very good for you. I am a sun addict. And yeah, as far as my values go, to be honest, like, no, I actually didn't get really any of my values from my parents. I was an atheist throughout high school. I came back to Christ when I was 19 years old, spent a ton of time reading the Bible, spent a ton of time listening to Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson, and really thinking about how the world actually works. And I believe that the right-wing perspective is most in alignment with nature and God's natural order, and just freedom and independence and sovereignty. I think conservative values are what make the world work properly. And they're at the underpinning of the foundations of civilization. And I just kind of, you know, listening to really smart dudes, especially Jordan Peterson, he had a huge impact on me from like 2016 through 2018. He helped me realize, like, okay, this is how nature actually works. These values are truly in alignment with nature, and they make everything work very, very well. And you know, I really came around to marriage too from doing like wedding photography and like reading the Bible, like doing wedding photography over the years, Chrissy, seeing how much like love and meaning existed between families that were coming together, and just all of that, and doing like engagement photo shoots, and like seeing how happy both men and women were, like when he would pop the question, like it's like it
So
really.
you'd be there, what, like with a proposal too? You'd be like hiding in a bush or something, like with your camera?
I've shot so many proposals like that, and it's honestly such a fun job too, because there'd be some engagements where like I would be like right there 5 feet away from them, pretending to be somebody that just happened to be there. And I'd, you know, have my camera in my bag and pretend like I didn't know anything that was going on. And I would have coordinated everything with the guy beforehand. And
Cool.
the woman would have no idea what's going on. He would pop the question, then boom, I would start snapping photos. And it's honestly like the most fun job. Like I've seen some of the most beautiful moments of my entire life doing that work. And it changed my heart. You know, it really helped me realize like the importance of like marriage and like committing to love, you know? So it changed my mind over time.
I guess there are no photographers like hanging out at the clubs like late at night when it's dark, like just like capturing drunken love matches. Probably not as many. There's probably not as much of a market for that. That's really cool. Did you go to school for photography? Is that what you always wanted to be?
I got into it when I was 18 years old, and I was considering studying econ. And then I took a very large dose of psilocybin mushrooms at the end of my freshman year of college. Had a series of synchronicities that made me do a complete 180. Like that day, as I was tripping, I met a kid who told me that the best photography school in the world was here in town. And
Wow.
then I met a guy who's 28 years old, and he basically, like, we had a conversation, and he helped me realize like the meaning of life, and like that I didn't want to study econ. And within the span of like 72 hours, I went from like, okay, I'm going to study econ to like I'm orienting my life around photography. And so then I studied
Wow.
college, and I went to Brooks Institute here in Santa Barbara, and they actually, weird story, a Chinese corporation bought the school while I was there, and they just completely screwed up all of the finances. And like they had to actually close the school while I was going there.
Did they
But
turn it into a laboratory to do gain of function?
100% creating bat coronaviruses there. And but it was cool. It all worked out because you don't need a degree. I didn't finish my degree. You don't need a degree to do photography. Nobody's like, hey, you have great work, but like, where's your degree? They're just like, hey, you have great work, come work with me,
Right. Yeah, that's true of a lot of the arts.
It's all about what you can produce. It's all about
It's
what
so
you can produce.
it's so funny. You're like, I took mushrooms. I woke up. I had a subscription to the Joe Rogan podcast, and my life was forever changed.
Actually,
Yeah, like that's what actually happens when you take mushrooms. It's like, why is Joe Rogan playing? Oh, it's part of the trip. That's
yeah,
neat.
yeah. How about you? How long have you been doing comedy?
Gosh, I started stand up in 2010. So 13 years. 2 of those are pandemic years, and I only really got serious maybe like in 2015 or 16 or 17. Yeah, and then my mom died in 2018, and I really turned up the juice, really put my foot on the gas, got more into podcasting, like just set goals. And literally it was like meeting my fiance helped everything happen for me. Like that's why I feel like part of my, I guess, I don't know, life goal, mission, I guess, is to help women, because feminism, like, it does nothing but wastes years of your life, because you're either going to become a cat lady, or you're going to come around and be like, fuck, I really want to meet a good guy. And you've just wasted years. So luckily I met my boyfriend before I bought my first cat. Because I lived in Brooklyn, lived in Queens. Like I was doing stand up. I was Democrat, registered Democrat. It took me a while to come around on Trump. And then, because I remember he always mentions this fight like that we had early on. I think it was like when Trump was running against Hillary. I was like, all right, if you had to vote for Trump or Hillary, who would you vote for? And I think he was voting for the Libertarian candidate. I'm like, if you had to pick Hillary or Trump, though, who would you pick? And he was like, Trump. And I was like, I harumphed, I guess, and pulled the covers over. And I still can't believe that is a way that I reacted. And I mean, what the fuck? I voted for Jill Stein that year. I didn't know any better. But I think I want to help other women kind of not waste their time in doing what they think they should be doing, and help them really listen to their heart, and help them find their way into what's going to make them the most happy. Because like I was able to quit my day job and go full time with comedy, like 100%, because of my fiance. He helped me reach all my goals, and we really are so much stronger together. And there's just no way I could have done any of this alone. So I want to help like save other women, I think, from making mistakes, I guess, or wasting too much time.
I saw a clip earlier today of a woman crying in her, she was 36 years old, and she was crying because she said she'd ran the numbers in terms of her finances, the amount of time it would take to conceive and raise a child, how much it would cost, how much IVF would cost, all that kind of stuff. And she was just bawling her eyes out in this video because she was like, I ran the numbers, and like, there's no way I'm going to have a kid. And she had divorced her husband like 3 years prior or something like that, and was just completely devastated because like her ability to do the one thing that she really wanted to do as a woman had become completely compromised. And I think it's very important to dispel all of the lies of feminism, because so many women buy into them and then end up in that position, not wanting to have ended up in that position in the first place. And it's just, it's devastating, you know, it breaks my heart. And that's why when I go on these podcasts, I try and, you know, set the girls straight. Cause I'm like, no, I know you think you know what you want, in terms of like, you think you want to go to the club and get hit on by all these exciting Chad bad boys and stuff. But like, you're going to look back at these days at some point and be like, man, I wish I had done things differently. And I hope it's not too late for these girls to realize it. You know what I mean? Like, I hope by the time they realize it, it isn't too late. Because for a lot of women, it ends up being that, you know? So that's why we got to have conversations like this.
Yeah. And I always thought my parents stayed married. I feel like they wanted to divorce, but they couldn't afford it. And they both like didn't have enough of a handle on technology, like to get on apps. Like they clearly were very resentful of one another, should have broken up, didn't, just stayed together. And I always thought children of divorced parents or separated parents, you know, it's bad because of the time spent and the sharing of custody. It's like, no, I think it's the most damaging thing about being a child of divorced or separated parents is like the unresolved bullshit or the unresolved drama between the two parents is literally constantly in play, and that becomes so toxic, and that's how that affects the kids. It's literally the ways in which the woman like manipulates the kid to get back at the guy because of unresolved shit with how they broke up or their relationship. And like it's normally going that way. I think I see more toxic single moms kind of working their shit out on the guy via the kid, you know, because that's where they feel like they have power in controlling that kid. The courts are very much stacked against men. They very much favor the mother still. So I rarely see men trying to get back at their exes like through manipulating the kid.
Yeah, I resonate with that. My mom did the same thing when my parents were getting divorced, and you know, she would talk about how our dad was trying to destroy her, and we were aligning with our dad to try and destroy her and all this stuff, and tell us, you know, like, you don't know how much of a bad guy he is. And for my little brother and I, it was like, it was pretty traumatizing to watch a lot of what they were going through and just the stress that it had on my mom and stuff. And that's why, you know, I realized that I really wanted to get married back in like 2019. And I was dating a girl at the time, and then all the COVID stuff happened, and we're streaming on YouTube right now. Do I have to be careful about the COVID stuff?
I mean, try to talk in code, but at the same time, whatever. I've gotten strikes. I'll survive. No.
So yeah, like we, you know, her and I, she was like this girl I was dating, very sweet girl, fantastic girl, but you know, a liberal. And as all the COVID stuff is unfolding, you know, the news about the mandatory juice was coming out, and we weren't on the same page about that at all. And I had this realization. I was like, if we're not on the same page about this, and we're not on the same page about my religion, we cannot get married together. Because one of the things that Jesus said is a kingdom divided cannot stand. Right. So if you're building a kingdom as a man, you're building a family and a home, you really want the man and the woman like this. And so we ended up breaking up. And honestly, like as a product of divorce, as a child of divorce, like all I've wanted for years is just God's favor over my life, so that I can find a really good spouse, have a really healthy family, and like just have like the best relationships in that family between me and my wife, me and my children, my wife and my children. Because I think, you know, Chrissy, I believe that so much of the brokenness that we see in the world today, I notice this especially on the podcast with like women and their attitudes towards men, it comes from like broken families, broken relationships with people's fathers or mothers. And like, when I look at like this crazy civilization that we live in, I'm like, okay, I think one of the best possible things I can do to try and fix everything is get my own house in order and raise my family properly. You know, like just be a good dad to my kids and a good husband to my wife, so that I can raise, you know, whole human beings that don't have a ton of baggage or daddy issues or anything like that. I think the more people that do that, like the more whole and healthy and healed we can make our civilization. And you know, that's why I'm preaching my message. You know what I mean? Because we just need more healthy families. You know.
And then the ripple effect of that, it's like you raise even one kid that's whole and doesn't have mom or dad issues, and then the ripple effect of that is immeasurable. And it's so easy to like dunk on these women because they're, especially that one girl, the talking stages girl, like that is hilarious. She's like, and I listened to it the first time. I was like, I have no fucking clue what this girl just said. And actually, like my fiance Frank was like, no, I listened to it. I decoded it, the whole thing. Here's exactly like I was like, you speak ho? He's like, yes, I do. No, no, it's so easy to just like dunk on them, but like he really did explain. He's like, and Ben Shapiro talks about this too when he kind of recapped it. It's yeah, because it's become uncool or weak to like want to get married or set goals for a relationship. So this girl's like, I don't really know what's happening unless I'm having sex with the guy or we're being physical. Like if we're talking, I don't really know where it's leading to, because probably she's afraid to throw down and say, yeah, I want to get married and start a family, because women have been taught that saying those things is precisely what scares off men. You know, they're, oh, your clock is ticking. Oh, the wall is coming. So you can't put out that you want any of these things because you don't want to come off needy and scare anybody away. So I understand, but her frustration was like, oh, I don't know how to like navigate my way through just talking and getting to know somebody.
Her frustration. I listened to that podcast for a little bit. Her frustration, if I recall correctly, was that she was dating an NCAA basketball player who's,
oh, there you go. Okay, now it all makes sense.
Yeah, he's playing the field and he's smashing her and he doesn't want to commit to her. And she's like, you know, it's frustrating. Like we're in the talking stages. I can't get this guy to commit to me, but like I really like him. You know what I mean? And she was very frustrated by that. Understandably so, you know? And I don't think women should feel disempowered for wanting to get married to a guy. It's a bummer because a lot of the guys that are my age that are studs are just, you know, they're just doing what that guy's doing. They're playing the field. And like, you know, like I said before, I was interested in that for a long time, but like then God gave me a vision of like, okay, I could have a marriage where me and my wife work really well together. She's really good at taking care of the home and she's really good at taking care of me and supporting me, you know, cooking food, being a homemaker. If it's like laundry or any of the other things that I need help with around the home, like if she's really good at taking care of those things, that frees my time up to take care of her and to go out into the world and snap necks and cash checks for our family. And then I can make more money to take care of her and take care of all of our kids. And then we, you know, our family unit just becomes like a force of nature. You know what I mean? And then like at that point in time, then I can have a bunch of kids with her ideally. And like we can, you know, create a dynasty or just a family that's, you know, by extension, a force of nature in the world around us. Like that's like I want to have as many kids as I can and send them forth out into the world to like do good things and to be good people. You know, like that's powerful. That's a high vision. And when you have a great relationship with a woman who you really like and you get along with, like other chicks, for me at least, they become much less interesting. You know what I mean? Like when you have a really good setup with a woman and the two of you are just like working together like a well-oiled machine and you're very attracted to one another, you're deeply in love with one another, you have a great intimate relationship, like dude, that's infinitely better than like talking to a bunch of random chicks that you don't have incredible chemistry with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's very fleeting. It's picking the far away goal in lieu of the momentary pleasure, and that's something Peterson talks about all the time. And I think for a lot of folks, like particularly like women, it is hard to see that far away goal because you didn't grow up with it. Like my parents didn't have a great relationship. They were constantly cutting each other down, being resentful, so passive aggressive. I mean, it helped me from a comedy standpoint because I learned roasting skills early, but I had like no faith in men, never wanted to get married. I was like, I want this. No, I don't want to sign up for a lifetime of resentment with a ring. Great. Like who wants that? So it took me years to realize like that's not just everyone's deal when they get married.
Do you think if you had grown up in a healthier family, it would have made you more open to marriage earlier on?
Probably, but I would have been less funny. So it's straight off. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing too, is what's under this attitude that we see from the women on this podcast. It's like there's hurt under that. There's a hurt relationship with a father. There's a hurt relationship with an ex under there. These people are all hurt and so vulnerable, and it's very much a front. It's very much a defense mechanism. It's like a survival mechanism. It's like they're doing the best they can to protect themselves from being hurt. But your real strength in a human being is not letting anybody hurt you so badly that they permanently change you, and they take away, like, your, as a woman, they take away your softness, your nurturing, your whatever it is, like your natural feminine energy. Like there is strength in kind of like that softness. And if someone hurts you so bad where they take that away and they make you harsh and cold and crusty, like, well, then that person's won because they've changed you.
Chrissy, on that, so like this is one of the insidious things about feminism, right? Is like it tells women, hey, go out and have as much fun as you possibly can in your 20s. And then these girls get hurt by, the bad boys that they want to, they want the bad boys to commit, but the bad boys are like, no, I'm not going to commit. And then they get hurt, and then they get jaded, and then they're really like, towards men. There's a verse in the Bible that says, guard your heart because it's the wellspring of life. Right. And like, this is one of the most important things that I feel like young women can do, because all these girls that want, a really great guy, they think like, oh, well, if I want to keep a good guy, I've got to give up my body to him. And they just continue to do this in the hopes that he'll commit to them. Right. But oftentimes all these guys want is the girl's body. And once they get that, and then they've had their fun with it, they discard the girl, and then the girl's completely heartbroken. And this is why I try and convince young women. I'm like, don't give your body up, especially right off the bat. Like, because then you're giving the guy what he wants. And if you want a good guy and you tell him like, hey, like, no, I want to wait a while, or I want to wait for marriage, you are protecting yourself from being used. And you're also filtering the guys that just want to use you out of the equation. Right. And ultimately, if you want a really good guy, the guy who's right for you, like he's going to be like, okay, like I'm okay with waiting. Like, I really like you for who you are. That's enough for me.
It also makes guys want to get married quicker, because it's like, if you really want to hit it, well, let's go then. Let's pick out the invitations.
That's the position I'm in. 1000%.
It's so interesting. Yeah, I loved this comment from Mike. Women go to college to become the men that they want to marry, because you're I don't know. Yeah, probably with this generation, but mine too. You're very much raised like, the message I got from both my mom and culture is you truly cannot depend on a man. You shouldn't want to depend on a man, especially not financially, because that's why they can either control you, or that's why you stay in a relationship that's not working for you, is because you can't get out because you can't afford to pay for your own shit by yourself. So go to college, get that degree to make sure you're not going to be vulnerable in that way. Always be able to take care of yourself financially. Like, that message was drilled into my head. Don't ever be a financial burden on somebody else. So
it's a shame, because like for me, like I'm at the point in my life, Chrissy, where I'm so excited to provide for a wife and kids. Like, I'm so excited at the possibility of making my wife a stay-at-home mom and a stay-at-home wife, so that we can just be rocking it around the crib. Like, why would I want my wife like working for some other man when her and I could be partnered in our own home? I don't want her like dealing with the stress of like having to deal with a 9-to-5 job, because that's hard on a woman in her femininity. After a while, it wears down on women.
It's like you give yourself, your everything to your boss from the second you get on the road to your commute till whenever you leave. What is that, 6-7 o'clock? And it's like, yeah, come on, like you're out in the work world. You have your BA or your bachelor's or whatever. It's like, you're going to be working for some man, okay? Unless you work for like a woman, but that woman is probably working for some man. So it's like, you're not as strong and independent as you think, because it's like, either the corporation is going to be your dude or the government is going to be your dude, or how about you just meet a really nice dude and then that can be your dude.
100%.
And I think people need to figure that out, because it's like you're not alone. Like you're not just, unless you start your own business, but like that takes time out the gate, fresh out of school. Like you're going to be working for a dude. So don't tell me that you're like such a strong feminist. And it's like I've had jobs where I literally visited my boss in the hospital and he handed me a bedpan to empty. And I was like, woohoo, maybe I'll get a raise, and I didn't. I did not get it.
That's female empowerment, Chrissy, getting that bedpan and being that
I was
strong.
so empowered. Yeah.
I was talking about this on a podcast with somebody yesterday. I feel like this whole female empowerment thing of like, it's empowering to be a strong, independent woman. It's a total psyop. Like, I think what true female empowerment is like telling a young woman, like, hey, you can be an incredible wife to a great man, and you can literally create human beings and bring souls into this world and raise them to be awesome people. Like, you can literally populate the earth with new people if you choose to. That's freaking incredible. Like that's such a miracle. You know what I mean? And I feel like in a world that is filled with like all these warring ideologies and like a lot of it's evil and a lot of it's not good, like it in my opinion, it should be very, very empowering for a woman to think, yeah, I can create good people and send them out into this world so that we can fix things. Like, I think that's a great message that not enough young women are being told.
Absolutely. They're not being told that at all. And feminine strength is totally is not respected, is downplayed. It's seen again as weakness. Like, I remember being in college, like the girls that would like meet a guy and get married right after college, like we would scoff at them, would be like, what a waste of that bachelor's degree. Like, what a waste of, their parents spent all this money and now they're not even using their degree. Meanwhile, it's like they did the thing, and I hate to see like a woman, like, because some women are not girly girls, right? Of course, we all know that. But for the women that are, and maybe their strengths are in nurturing and making a home and being sweet and kind and empathetic, and like those all can be superpowers, but pointed in the right direction. It's like, if those are all your strengths, but they're pointed at a desk for a 9 to 5, like that's going to suck. That's going to suck all that right out of you. You're going to be drained. You're going to be depressed. It's going to be harder to meet somebody, or you're just going to be like, well, I have to go meet a guy. I guess like now I've worked a full day and I have to go to happy hours until I meet some guy. But I'm also afraid to tell him that I want him to lock it down because I don't want to be needy and push him away. So it's hard. It's hard for men and women both to deal with. But I would like to see people championing, I guess, making sort of, and I hate saying, oh, like be a trad wife, because some of that messaging is a little obnoxious too. But to have like women and men, if that's what you really want, don't feel like you have to do something else because like culture and the people maybe that you admire and look up to, or the fucking influencers tell you like that's the way to go.
I think like the most important takeaway for young women today is like, a lot of women have very natural and very strong instincts to create kids and to be a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home wife. And it's okay to honor those instincts. It's okay to admit that you have them, because that is a big part of what being a woman actually is. And it's okay to reject the programming that tells you those things are weak. Like, it is okay to honor your biological instincts. It is okay for a man to assertively say, yeah, I want to make that woman my wife. Like, it's okay for men to assert themselves into the world. And it's not toxic masculinity. It's like, it's tonic masculinity. It's like revitalizing for the world, And I think all of these agendas are aimed at like completely subverting those natural instincts that we have. Because if you can get the genders and everything all confused about what it is to be a man or a woman, you can just create total chaos in the world. And if you create total chaos in the world, a chaotic world, that's very easy for some, higher power to come in and manipulate and control. And I think that's a lot of what's happening around us today. I look at like this grooming of kids in schools and just all of these ideologies that are trying to like co-opt people's minds. They're like control manipulation mechanisms, in my opinion. And I think we find true sovereignty and like true power and vitality in life when we lean into our natural biological instincts and who we were created to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think a lot of women are afraid to put that out there, something they want, because they're like, well, what dude is good? It's like basically like, who wants to sign on to have a dependent? Like who wants to pay for me to live and then pay for kids to live? It seems like that is asking a lot from a guy. And especially like there are a lot of guys I talk to that are like, I don't make enough to have my wife stay at home, and they are working as hard as they can.
Well, I'll tell you this, Chrissy. Almost all of my bros, like the dudes I'm good friends with, they're all like, yeah, I really want to find a good woman and like make a wife and a mother out of her. And I do want to provide for her. And yes, it's difficult to get to that point in today's world, especially with what they've done to our money. They've destroyed our money with this like indiscriminate money printing. Back 50, 60 years ago, a guy could get a job out of high school and provide for a wife, kids. He could buy a house, he could buy a car with just a blue collar job. Nowadays, it's more difficult, but it's not impossible. And what I would say to like the men out there and the women out there who want what we're talking about and who are based and who are like, they've deprogrammed themselves from all these narratives in the world. I mentioned this earlier in the show that we're building a solution to this to bridge these people together. This past week, I got in touch with a tech founder who wanted to build a company with me. Essentially almost like LinkedIn, but for people that are based, who reject like the woke ideologies and all of these narratives that are being rammed down our throats, people who want to actually speak up against what's happening in the culture. And, people who wouldn't want to get canceled, for example, if they went on a podcast and said that it would be gay to have sex with a tranny, right? There's a lot of people out there who want to be able to say these things, and they're worried about, getting fired from a job, right? Well, a tech founder reached out to me this past couple of weeks, and he was like, hey man, I'm building a company to connect based individuals with based employment opportunities, based business partners, so that we can create kind of like a sovereign business network of people that are uncancelable. Would you be interested in building something like that with me? And I was like, dude, I'd love to. Let's talk about it. Well, we jumped on the phone, and I told him, I was like, is there any way that we could maybe incorporate like a dating aspect into this as well? Because I had posted a thread back in June of last year talking about a based dating app for me, it was like, I was like, okay, I wish there was a dating app for Christians who are like, they haven't gotten the juice. They've deprogrammed themselves from what's going on in the world. They're
Christian, but fun.
Yeah, they're Christian, but fun and based and not like programmed with all this stuff. And I was like, my friends were like, dude, you should build it and call it based dating. Well, anyways, I was talking to this founder. I was like, could we build something like that? He was like, absolutely. So we're building these two platforms right now. One's called Based Pros. It's the based version of LinkedIn for people that want to be sovereign and don't want to get canceled.
So smart. And automatically you have the same values. You're not going to get canceled. There's be no bullshit. No, oh, what's your diversity, inclusion, equity efforts? Like none of that. You're just like, okay, we all have the same values. Great. Let's get to work. We don't, all that bullshit's out of the way.
Exactly. So Based Pros, we're building that app to connect people with those kind of business and work opportunities. And then we're creating Based Dating to connect Christians together who haven't gotten, the jab, or just like Bitcoiners, basically people who see through everything that's happening right now, and they want to find a partner who's aligned with them in values. We're creating Based Dating for those people as well. And if your listeners, if you've got women that are looking for a
what about flat earthers? We got flat earthers in the chat too.
we might throw an option in there for that.
Flat date.
yeah, flat dating. you know, if you've got people in your audience who are interested in something like that, go to getbased.org, pop your email into the sign up box, and we're going to be sending you guys out updates about this stuff because we're hard at work building it. And, you know, with this clip going viral, these 2 clips going viral, I can't tell you how many dudes I've talked to who were like, man, I wish I had the opportunity to speak up like this. And I really want to, but I don't want to get fired. Like, we are building the solution for you guys so that you can find employment and business partners who are aligned with you on this stuff so that you can speak up against it. Because the more people we have speaking up against all this stuff, the better chance we have of like defeating feminism and all these different, you know, Marxist ideologies that are being rammed down our throats. So yeah, go to getbased.org if you guys are interested. Pop your email in the sign up box. We are blasting this across the airwaves. Every single freaking podcast I'm doing, I'm talking about this because we need as many people on these platforms as possible so that we can create a sovereign network of people and sovereign families.
What's it called? Get Based?
Getbased.org. Do you mind if I use the restroom really quick?
No, go for it. Potty break. Do you guys have any questions for Chase? We're probably going to wrap it up when he gets back. Flat earthers are lost causes. Come on, even flat earthers deserve to find love. I think it's fun to bring up. Okay. I like it. I like it. I like the cut of his jib. He's got his head on straight. I feel like a supportive aunt. Dude does seem cool. Yeah. I was going to play some of the viral clips, but at this point, like, y'all have seen them. Actually, I wanted to play this. Oh yeah, look at this meme. This was a great meme. I think someone posted this and said, like, which way, Western man? And it's Chase saying, I wouldn't have sex with a tranny, and Andrew Tate going, it's just like Megan Fox with a dick. There are a lot of good memes. But yeah, this is it's pretty cool to hear so many people have reached out to him because it just shows you that people do feel this way. Their values align with what we're talking about. They're just afraid to say so. Hi, you're back. This is what I wanted to mention before. This is another reason why I feel like your clips have gone so viral. And while people have really reached out to you so much, and I've thought a lot about this, and you think about the areas in which woke ideology has completely taken over our institution, academia, right? Colleges, universities, entertainment, Hollywood, corporation, like just about every institution has been infiltrated by this woke pressure. Because it follows like woke mobs, and then we have like the corporate agendas, and ultimately it all links back to like money, right? Who are the donors, right? BlackRock, Vanguard, the powers that be, New World Order, right? They want to dissolve the family, right? That people have their agendas, and Marxism, right? The Trojan horse of wokeism. But there are, I believe, 2 areas that cannot be affected ultimately by wokeism. And it's comedy and it's dating. You cannot woke your way into comedy or dating. Culture has become more PC, people have become more woke, but people still laugh at racist jokes. People still laugh at sexist joke. I know this because I'm out in the country doing shows. People laugh at inappropriate shit all the time. You're lying to me if you tell me that even the most woke person has probably made fun of a white person or made fun of a Christian couple or whatever. It's just that what's become like PC and trendy has changed. The groups that it's okay to make fun of now has changed, but everyone laughs at racist shit and sexist shit. That hasn't changed. Same goes. That's what you represent, Chase, is like the dating world. You can't, like, they're trying to demonize preference.
Yes.
And I think they've also demonized your sense of humor. That's why certain comics, your jokes get canceled. You get canceled. People try to cancel me constantly. And people get very triggered by that, by in comedy, and by what you represent, Chase, which is preference in dating. You know, you could probably force someone to be okay with working with a trans person, but you can't force someone to want to date a trans person if they don't want to. You can't. Like, you can't bully your way into someone's pants. I mean, I guess you can. I guess that's rape, essentially.
They call it transphobic if you won't date a trans person. That's so ridiculous.
And here's like where the buck stops at dating. I'm a comedy too, but I think even at a more baseline is dating and who you pick for your partner, because it's like you're not going to pressure somebody in settling down or dating with somebody they don't want to. Like that, you're just not going to force people to do that. It might sound good to say, oh, you have to be attracted to everybody or you're transphobic. And that's like, I think we're finally hitting the rock bottom level at which people are going, no, we have to push up against this. You're not going to force me to like date a chick with a dick if I don't want to. You're not gonna. I will fuck the oldest woman in the world, okay? Because I'm not gonna fuck this chick with a dick. And you kind of represent like this base level that dudes at least are like, no, this is where I draw the line. I don't care how hot she is. If she has a dick, I'm out. Sorry, like I think I can find somebody else. And
Happy to
you're
represent.
empowering people to say how they really feel, because it's not okay to say this at work, at school, at your job, in entertainment, in Hollywood. Nobody can say that they're maybe not okay with certain things, because people don't want to get fired, people don't want to lose their jobs, people don't want to get kicked out of school. But where you can't bully people is in their love life, because you just can't fight the moonlight, as Leanne Rimes once said.
You're absolutely right.
She said that.
You're absolutely right. I mean, that's what, when you get down to the love life, that's when you're getting down to your own fundamental biology. And it's like, you can tell people, oh yeah, no, trans people, you know, trans men can participate in men's sports, or trans women can participate in women's sports. And people are like, oh, okay, all right, well, I guess, you know, I got to swallow that pill. But you can't tell somebody, hey, you have to be with a trans man. Because at that point in time, it's like, okay, like, no, like this is the line that will never be crossed. And honestly, it's cool because that is the rock bottom that you just described. And like, I feel like what just happened in the past couple of weeks, especially with that clip going like absurdly viral, is like the culture went and hit that rock bottom, and now it's bouncing back, and now it's traveling back upwards. And my goal is to try and empower that bounce back upwards to go as high as we possibly can. You know, I want the pendulum to swing way back towards where things are natural and good and true, and people are in alignment with nature. And, you know, with academia or Hollywood or the media or people's employment and all that kind of stuff, like really the line is held on a cultural level with the individual. You know, I think what that podcast clip demonstrated is all it takes is one dude to say what needs to be said to people that will not be able to stand hearing it. And then like, boom, it can create a massive ripple effect. Like,
yeah, everyone goes, yes, oh my God. And we're hitting rock bottom on so many cultural areas. Like, I think with pedophilia and fucking with kids, like the trans women, fine, people be trans, fine. But once you start fucking with people's kids, now it's like, boom, you hit that rock bottom and people are rising up, and it's hitting that area in many different areas. Like it's hitting basically like the rock bottom, and people go, okay, enough already. Like, what? Come on. Well, like anybody, a family can be anybody can adopt. I mean, there was a story of like these two dudes that ended up adopting a bunch of kids, and it found out like they were all getting molested. It was like the absolute worst story you could hear. But it's like people were warning about this years ago. So I guess we all, as a society, had to hit our rock bottom in all these areas to start pushing back.
Yeah, and if I may finish the point, it's that we need as many individuals as possible that can speak up against this stuff publicly in order to really begin shifting the culture. And that's especially what we're trying to do with Based Pros, is like, we need as many people as possible who feel empowered to speak, working at jobs or creating businesses for themselves where they can afford to speak up about this stuff without it affecting their career. You know, that's what we're really trying to build with Based Pros, is like, we want, if you're looking for a job, we want to connect you with a company that's looking for people like you who reject all of this. You know, if you're looking for business partners, we want to connect you with people that are looking for people like you who, like, you know, they don't want to bite their tongue about like Marxism or the pedophilia stuff or like the LGBTQ community. Like, we need to connect as many people as possible who have these values so that we can strengthen that part of our society so that individual people can begin speaking up against this. Because the only reason, I tell my friends this all the time, the only reason all these narratives are so pervasive throughout our society is because everyone's biting their tongues. The reality is that the majority of people disagree with all of this stuff that's being pushed on us, but they think a lot of people assume that everybody's agreeing with it because they don't hear people standing up against it. They assume that they're alone in disagreeing with it because they don't hear voices of people saying, no, I reject all of this. But what I've discovered in the past couple of years, like me speaking up on that podcast, that was just like one thing that went viral. I posted on my Instagram story for years about how I rejected like COVID, reject like the gay pride movement and the LGBTQ stuff and how it's moving towards pedophilia. And Chrissy, I would get so many messages from people that were like, dude, thank you for vocalizing what I have been thinking. I didn't realize that there were other people out there who thought this. There are so many people who have no idea how many other people feel the exact same way that we do. And we need to get like everybody in a position where they can speak up against it, because that's how you reclaim the territory and the culture and take the culture back. And that's why people need to go to getbased.org, pop in your email. We want to hook you guys up with connections with businesses like this, where you can build an income that's sovereign so that you can speak up. And you can also find a partner who feels the same way that you do about all this stuff, you know?
That's a great idea. Of all the people that have reached out to you, like, I guess, what's been the most impressive or exciting, like, I don't know, high profile wise or celebrity wise, who was surprising, or I guess who was the most surprising reach out, and who was like maybe the most high level, that person that's reached out, other than me, of course?
Greg Gutfeld on Fox News, he followed me on Twitter. That was like, whoa, my grandma's gonna go crazy. Yeah, she watches it all the time. He hasn't reached out or anything, but he followed me. Tim Pool's team reached out, so I'm going on Tim Pool on the 17th. That's
yay! Oh, congrats! That'll be great.
That's crazy. I'm super stoked about that. In terms of high level, I mean, I've had offers for a lot of money to start my own podcast, and this partnership with Get Based, or Based Pros and Based Dating, that's been fantastic. I love the fact that I've been invited to do InfoWars a couple times, like as a longtime conspiracy theorist, aka conspiracy realist, somebody who just actually knows what's going on. That was a freaking honor to get connected with them. And
you do Owen's show or Alex's show?
Did Owen Schroyer, and then did the American Journal with Harrison Smith. Those guys are awesome. I loved my interviews with both. I just did my one with Harrison a couple of days ago, and it was such an awesome conversation. People are curious to see it. It's on my Twitter feed right now. And yeah, I'm just taking it day by day and trying to walk through as many doors as I have the energy to do, and that God opens. And, my goal is to just, try and honor the Lord with the life that I've been given, and speak up against all this evil and degeneracy, and try and help fix a broken culture. You know what I mean? And ideally thwart the New World Order agenda. That'd be pretty legit too. I think that's
if there's time. Yeah.
Yeah, if there's time.
No, that's great. I think you represent a really important shift that's beginning in our country, and it's long overdue. I'm going to run through a couple of these supers. Thank you, Master Austin, for becoming a new YouTube member. John Orchard, thank you, Chrissy. Science tells us how the world works. Christianity tells us how to live in this world.
Super based.
John Orchard, I think taking pictures of people coming out of bars with people would make a great coffee table book. It might be a lesson on what not to do. Oh, that's great. That's really creative.
Fantastic idea.
John Orchard again. I have been told that our relationship and our view of God the Father is based on our relationship with our earthly father. How am I still alive? That helped to change my relationship and perception of God.
That's a fantastic point.
Wow. I very much grew up fearing my dad, like big time.
If I may say one
thing, I just didn't like getting hit. Okay. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that
it's
happened.
No big deal.
Sure. Yeah, no, that really resonates with me, John. My biological father really doesn't care about my existence. And for a long time, I projected that onto God. And it took a long time for me to undo that.
Wow.
And I think, honestly, I think the best thing that men can do to become good fathers is work out their relationship with our Heavenly Father, because ultimately it's our job to love our wives and our kids the way that God loves us. And I think that's how we fix the daddy issues in the world. So that really resonated with me, John.
Wow. Yeah, me too. So wait, your dad didn't even reach out even after you went viral?
No, I haven't spoken to him in like 5 or 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah, 6 years almost. Yeah, his family didn't know about my existence for 22 years. He cheated on his wife with my mom, and produced me. And his wife knew that he had cheated, but he never told her that he had conceived a son. And he kept giving me the runaround and telling me, yeah, I'll tell them, just give me a little bit more time, give me a little bit more time. Kept telling me that for years.
Whoa.
And I wanted to get close to him, but he was like, no, not until my family knows. And eventually I was like, dude, you're never going to tell your family. So you got 10 days to tell them I exist, or else I'm going to. And then he told them, and we haven't spoken since.
Wow. Well, if they're watching now, then ta-da. No, that sucks, man. I'm sorry you went through that. That's some real shit, but I'm glad that you worked through it and helped to kind of heal yourself, because that's the kind of story that like could produce a very toxic person, you know, and then you live your whole life like trying to get vengeance on some hurt, you know.
It screwed me up for a while, Chrissy, but I've forgiven him, and you know, I've gotten over the heartbreak of it all, because it's hard, you know, when your biological father doesn't give a shit about you. It's like, that hurts, you know. It's like, dude, like I'm your kid. Like, you don't care about my existence. You're not interested to know who I am. You're not interested to. It's hard, you know what I mean?
Yeah, how do you not take that? It's like the biggest, most baseline kind of rejection you can get. So
Literally.
fuck yeah, you're doing great. You're doing great. I'm very proud of you, Chase. I feel like I'm a supportive aunt. Scroats McGoats, what's the best way to get these girls to shake off the indoctrination?
Become a high value man, reject the indoctrination, and the girls will correct themselves so that they can secure your approval, basically.
Yeah, if you reject it yourself, and I believe in the law of attraction, you know, like just don't settle for less than what you want.
Yeah, if enough men who are desirable reject all of this stuff in the culture, the women will see that and they'll be like, oh snap, like I need to drop all of this if I want to secure the kind of dude that I want, you know? So just become I would say, become the best man that you could possibly become. Hold a hard standard. Don't be willing to compromise on it. And the right woman will come, and the rest of the women, they'll be like, snap, if all these guys reject all this stuff, I got to get it together. You know, that's how I think we fix it.
Yeah. From Daniel Jagger, Chrissy and Chase, could you potentially help Rebecca Blonde reach out to Pearl? I don't know if I know who Rebecca Blonde is, but I don't know. I would say she should DM her or email her. Scroats McGoats, is Kiko's entire brand just existing as great value Ariana Grande?
No comment.
No comment. What do you think, Scroats McGoats? You always starting trouble in the chat.
I think Kiko's brand is to never stop speaking the worst opinions possible on the whatever podcast. That girl will not let other people speak on the podcast and just spews so many bad opinions. I'm not going to insult her though.
She doesn't need to. She insults herself just by living. Chase, you're the best. Everyone follow Chase on Twitter at Sovereign Brah. Go to getbase.org. I mean, you've heard about all the wonderful things he's working on and what's coming up. And yeah, anything else? Any parting words? Any Jerry Springer's final thoughts from you, Chase, for our audience?
I would just say that Christ is Lord. He offers humanity eternal life. It's free. You can take it. All you have to do is follow him. And the most encouraging thing to me in this entire experience has been I clearly see the hand of God working right now. I've experienced the craziest synchronicities. And if you align yourself with God and his will, he is on your side, and he works miracles. He answers people's prayers. I've seen my prayers answered in my life with the craziest specificity possible, to the point where no atheist could ever tell me that it wasn't God. Like it would be impossible for them to do that. And yeah, when you align yourself with God, you have God on your side, and we have nothing to fear. You know, it's like I'll leave you with this. It's like it said in Romans: if God is for us, who can be against us? And we've got this world that's overtaken by satanic ideologies, but the God of the universe stands against it. And we are the body of Christ. We're here to take our stand against the devil's schemes. So yeah, just align yourself with God. Jesus is Lord.
Amen. I wish I had some gospel to play us out with.
Chrissie, thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor. And I enjoyed this conversation, and I appreciate what you're trying to do, injecting humor into a really stiff and uptight culture, and you know, your message against feminism and all of that. It's fantastic. And I wish you the best of luck with your career and your relationship and whatever your goals are in life.
Oh, thanks, Chase. Wow. Look, guys, we're friends now. Okay, this was great. Thank you, everybody in the chat, for your comments and questions. And everybody watch Chase on Tim Pool on the 17th. I don't care what you think about Tim Pool. Support our boy.
Let's go.
And we'll see you next time.